live. Good
Good
morning.
Valentine.
How
Good
are you,
morning.
Rotus?
I'm dry. I'm doing well.
You are
I
dry,
avoided the rain
but
out
it
there.
rained this morning. Oh,
I
okay.
tried to stay dry. How's
That's
everybody doing?
lucky. We're good. We're good.
Nice one,
What's
nice one.
happening today?
Hey, look, it's a whole lot of stuff. We're talking jobs and stuff. I want to let people know how they can
All right,
join
so
us.
if
And
you,
yeah.
you want to be part of the show, that's Business Express here. Use the hashtag on Twitter, Business Express 981. Our Twitter handle, by the way, is at Smooth981FM. And you can send a message to WhatsApp. The number is 0809 4440981.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Let's see now. Stock market, stock market, stock market, stock market. I think Friday, ladies and gentlemen, was probably the worst drop that we've seen on the exchange so far this year. 3.38% is where the market, the margin by which the market dropped on Friday. 36,816.2 points is where we closed on Friday. The market, just for last week alone, I think it dropped like 6%. So far this year, we're in the negative region now. We've tipped over the cliff. We're at 3.73%. 15 gainers, 28 losers. Access Bank was the top gainer, up by 5% on Friday. International Breweries was the top loser. That was, in fact, I think it's been the top loser now 2 days in a row, down by 9.6%, and we're at 363 naira to the dollar. Rain's holding up my guest. Hopefully, he'll be in a second, but. The market, I mean, as far as where things are now, there's this tweet I want to read from somebody I follow. He says that if foreign investors are exiting the Nigerian markets and you are a savvy local investor, you should be buying. Why? Because they'll surely come back, and if you're waiting to buy, then it will be too late. If you know, you know. So there are opportunities right now in the market. If you look at a lot of my guests, everybody that comes in on the show likes the tier one banks. A very good example, of course, is GTB. GTB closed at 38 naira on Friday. It was at a high of about 54 naira back in January, like the first week in January. So that's come down. So that's it. That's you're looking like let's look like an opportunity right now. Zenith, as high as what was Zenith at? 33 naira back in early January. It's dropped to about 25 naira on Friday. The tier one banks are still a good option for a lot of people. The only question is this, yeah? How do you time the market as far as the bottom is concerned? Because there is still every indication that the market is going to keep falling this week as far as foreign investors that are still exiting the market. So that's where the whole crystal ball thing comes in. Now, you can, I'm going to give you guys a tip out there that are listening. I mean, if you have to know traders, yeah, that is actual brokers on the exchange who actually do the buying and selling of stocks, yeah. So and this is not inside information or anything. You just simply say it's like calling a market seller of fish at the market and say, hey, how are your fish sales going? Are there a number? How many are being sold right now? How are your buyers and sellers? How's the flow of things going in? That might give you a clue as to where the market is going. So I don't know. Who knows? Things might turn around today, and things it could be positive. This is the thing about the stock market and why a lot of people, are a little skeptical about it, because the ebb and flow is just back and forth. That's tier one banks. Another thing is that if you look at where interest rates are now for things like treasury bills, they enjoyed the big banks enjoyed themselves last year when rates were at like 18, 19% and so on. And so now that rates have come down, the income statements aren't going to be looking as good as they were last year, because they weren't going to be earning as much from the high rates that they were getting. Of course, the whole story with that is that the federal government, of course, needed to be able to fund its deficit. So it was offering rates at high rates for T-bills in order for people to earn as much as possible. And so now that's come down since they've refinanced. But the tier one banks, for Leah, you guys out there, is still a good option. And of course, I always put out this disclaimer before buying any stocks that we talk about on the show, whether I mention a GTB or it's a Zenith Bank or wherever. Just consult a broker, in order to make sure. Yeah, just to be sure, because there's always that case where if things start to tank, they'll come back and say, hey, it was Rotus that told me to buy these stocks. Another stock I like, in fact, my guest that was supposed to come in today, Seplat, yeah? Seplat is in the oil and gas place, upstream player. They depend a lot on where oil prices are. So oil prices have been rising recently. We know what's been going on in the Middle East with America and North Korea, so on and so forth. OPEC and its supply cuts in order to try and assist its members. They've rose to almost $80, but oil prices have been retreating recently. So that is of course going to affect a company like a Seplat, which is still in most people's view a buy. But when oil prices start to retreat, you have to say, okay, look, how is this going to affect this company's upstream prospects? So that's another. I think Seplat was trading about 680, 690 back in January. It's dropped to about 640, I believe, on Friday. So there's still opportunities for a number of stocks in the market. You just have to be a bit careful.
Talking about buying stocks,
yeah.
now Benga almost says on WhatsApp, it is hoped that your guests are right concerning buying stocks in the market. Who knows how deep this outflow will go?
See, Benga, I always want Benga and I'm waiting for the day I disagree with Benga about something. Benga, you're correct. The thing is, if you look at GTB now, I was talking to one of our broker over the weekend. I was like, okay, 38 naira. This is a stock that was as high as 50 something. That is surely a good opportunity to buy it now. He's like, well, yes, it's a good price, but how do you know it won't fall to 35 naira or 30 this week? I mean, that's really pushing it. But so that's the thing. So maybe you want to just give it a day or two to see where things are, or pick up a few units now, because still, 38 naira is a good buy. If it drops to 37, and you scoop up some more units, down the
so
line. You have to keep watching where things are. But again, we beat this to death last week. One of the reasons why all this is happening is that there are funds that are flowing out of the country. A number of investors are moving back to the United States because there's something called interest rate normalization, where they're raising interest rates back over there. So the returns for them are pretty good. So that's where things are. But it's I'll put it out there. I would think I'm going to actually pick up some units of GTB this week. Also UBA, Access, again, Access was the top gainer on tier 1 bank. So again, I would. It's just that I would say maybe be cautious this week, because we have to really see how things go with the market. Jobs. Did you at your headline news update this one? Did you talk about Garba Shion and his 9 million jobs?
It was mentioned sparingly.
Jobs. So we know unemployment as of Q3 2017, I believe unemployment was at 18%. From the last time it was reviewed, I think from 14 to 18%. Unemployment has been rising. So if the special assistant is coming out and saying that they've been creating jobs, you have to wonder where the jobs are. Now, he did say, of course, that most of these jobs are in agriculture. The thing is, though, the jobs in the agricultural space are seasonal. I don't really want to fault what he's saying, but he said 9 million jobs. I don't know that if you break that down over the last 3 years, that comes out to 3 million per year, which is the numbers that they promised. So we haven't quite seen that. That's something that you guys are you gonna go delve into that on Fresh Tip Press?
Maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, the jobs numbers. Again, we do need to have fourth quarter figures from 2017. It's already Q1 2018 now, so we need to check exactly where the figures are. But just to anyone that heard the news with the special assistant saying that they actually created 9 million jobs and they've been increasing, you do want to take that with a grain of salt, because you want to take the figures actually coming out from the Bureau of Statistics, and it does show that unemployment has been rising. Again, another scary thing for us is that underemployment and unemployment for youth is about 47-48%. It's a really, really large number. Underemployment, of course, being where you take a job that you are vastly overqualified for. So a university graduate,
or largely underpaid for.
Well, underpaid, but really is overqualified. So if I've graduated from university with a chemical engineering degree and I'm selling food on the road, that's underemployment. Because my skills are way over that. So do take those numbers with a pinch of salt. PMI. Let's look at the Purchasing Managers Index. That's actually at 50. Purchasing Managers Index at 56.5 for the month of April. It actually kind of went down from 59 in. Actually, I'm getting this backwards. 56.5 in May, which fell from 56.9 in April. So the PMI kind of came down a bit. It's still over 50. If you have that, PMI actually gauges the health of the manufacturing sector. So as far as orders are concerned, that's what the survey that the CBN just did recently. Kayode, you're here. Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry about the traffic
Yes,
and the rain. We're talking. What do you want to bring in? We're talking about the PMI just a second ago. It's actually come down a bit. Or should we bring you in on stocks? I wanted to get your opinion on where things are right now.
yeah. So I think I was following you on the radio.
Yeah. Okay.
So the
Good.
market has been going down. I mean, the last 3 weeks, and if you look at it, it's largely all Kazakhstan, South Africa. All these markets are losing,
Yeah.
and then there's a correlation between the movement in US yields and actually emerging market equities. So
Okay.
what I've realized is a lot of investors are selling off. But if you look at Nigeria, all indicators are actually fine. So the risk really, I think investors have a private political risk.
Mm.
But what I advise local investors to do is just look at opportunity in the stocks and actually buy at this time. So if you look at GT, for example, if you look at Zenith Bank at current price, if you assume last year dividend yield, you see about 30% dividend yield for some of the stocks.
Okay.
So it makes sense to actually go in. It reminds me of sometime last year where you had these issues with the market where people were actually panicking. And then when it started to rally, then everybody started to jump into the stocks.
So okay. So me telling people to be cautious this week as far as how low the market can. You're saying they should jump in.
Yeah,
Well, I
sometimes,
mean,
sometimes you can't really time the market.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
because
almost
you don't know when it's actually going to bottom out. But the
Mm.
thing is that whatever you buy now, if you have a 1 year view, quite a long term view, or like a patient capital in the
Yeah.
market, it actually makes sense to enter
To-
some
to
of
go
the
in.
stocks. GT at 38, Zenith Bank around 26.50.
yeah.
You have the likes of UBA. You have First Bank at about 10 naira, 10 naira.
Mm-hmm.
You have Seplat actually now close to 700 naira.
What about the whole? I was just mentioning on Seplat. With where oil prices, they've retreated a little bit, right? From but I mean, it's still high. That's not a concern for you as far
No,
as
no.
Seplat
So
is
for
concerned.
Seplat, you want to focus on average oil price for the quarter.
Okay.
I mean, it's still above 75.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for them because I mean, you're coming from last year where you had about 45, $55.
Right.
So that's actually going to be good for their earnings.
Okay.
And the fact that I mean, production is actually back on board, so you see a very strong growth in terms of their profit.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it for
Okay. Okay. So nothing to really panic about it. Okay. Can we quickly jump into the fixed income space where we're talking about liquidity levels in fixed income market? Where are you seeing things as far as that's concerned?
So what's happening in the fixed income market is, I mean, the liquidity basically should drive yields are actually low.
Okay.
But what's happening now is that there's been a concern about FX market. The first time in 9 months we've seen net outflows in FX market. You've seen a depletion in the reserves. So the CBN is beginning to get concerned about liquidity, and they're becoming very very aggressive in terms of mopping up. From where we stand now, we don't think the FDC will cut rates this year again.
Okay.
We think they're just going to maintain status quo because of the liquidity levels.
Mm.
From July up to December, you have strong liquidity. In much of December alone, you have about 2.3 trillion more maturing. So what's basically will happen is that you might see rates actually stay at these levels. It makes sense to actually stay short, buy more of the TBUs, the short-term instruments, and also try and lock in on rates. So if you see corporate bonds at about 18%, 17%, or 3 to 400 basis points above the risk-free rate, actually makes sense to lock in on it, or just stay short and buy on the treasury bills.
Okay, if I could just tie this, I was mentioning this now. If I could tie this back to some of the banks, they enjoyed higher rates as far as T-bills and so on. That do you, as far as first quarter, well, some of the first Q1 numbers have already come in. That's not a concern for you, yeah, with rates being lower, with the margins that banks enjoyed on the T-bills from last year. It's going year on year, that's not much of a concern as far as
it's you will see some moderation in their net interest margins,
right,
because of that high rates. But the thing is that some banks actually suffered when rates were high because of their funding costs. A lot of banks who have expensive deposits. So when rates starts to go down, they'll be able to reprice some of those deposits.
Okay.
So you see that actually improve their interest margins. But banks loan rates are still actually sticky. So that basically would moderate any impact of the decline we're seeing in investment securities for the banks.
Okay, good stuff. Only about a minute left. I was just, as you came, I was just talking about the PMI. It's just very slight movement from April to May. 56.5 in May versus 56.9 in April. Things are still relatively encouraging
I mean, just like I said, slight pressure on the FX leg, but not significant. The CBN still has a lot in his watches to support that space. So manufacturing sector will still improve. I think sometimes it's a seasonality issue. You get into rainy season, things are a little bit dry. Ramadan is also actually affecting activities.
Yeah.
So that basically should affect some impact we're seeing in the manufacturing sector.
Okay.
But I think going forward, after like from next month or going into the dry season, you start to see pick up in the PMI data. So it's still strong. It's above 50.
Right, and that's
concerned about.
Any thing to worry about with the FX situation. You know, the central banks they come out. It looks like they've now pumped. I think they're a net supplier seller now to the INE window. Any
Well,
reason
for
to
now,
worry?
nothing to be worried about, because I mean they've been able to add about over $10 billion to the reserves. But we just don't need to. We can't downplay the impact of foreign outflows.
Yeah.
Because assuming they have to, throughout all, they have to exit some of their maturing FI. What you see is about $9 billion out of the market this year. And that's like almost all what we've actually built in the reserve.
Right.
So you can't downplay that. So we just need to see how foreign investors overprice political risk. Yeah, but I think the CBN can manage the FX issue this year.
Good stuff.
Well,
Thanks for coming. That's Kayode from ARM, of course. Remember, highlight ARM if you want to get some advice on which stocks to purchase. Go ahead.
In closing, Henry Manuel sent this message in on WhatsApp. It says, do not take the numbers with a pinch of salt. He was very affirmative with the 9 million job claims. He's flat out incorrect. As far as I'm concerned, as far as the MBS employment data is concerned, he lied. Political advisors shouldn't put their interest ahead of the sanctity of data.
Henry, thank you so much for that message.
Henry.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rotus.
All right, thank you, Kayode.
On Twitter.
Yes.
At Rotan Quotes.
That's correct.
And Kayode, thank you so much. Coming up next, Lagos is Frankly Speaking with Muyiwa Falabi, and then 7:30, the time for Freshly Pressed, the detailed analysis on the stories on our newspapers this morning.